Let's do it. Are you trying to do too much? That's the question I asked myself when I started working on this video. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This is Joel for JiveLearning, and today we're going to look at some of the things we can do to maximize and make the most out of the time that we have. If you find anything in this video useful, be sure to give us a like. It really helps out the channel. And now onto 3 things that you can do to maximize your time as a creator. Identify the time when you're most creative and use it. So a few years ago, I started journaling as a method for tracking personal goals and tasks and maintaining overall sanity. And perhaps most importantly, I wanted to see where my time was going. Now, I've always been the kind of person to help others pretty quickly. And over time, I gained a reputation for being someone who is immediately accessible to people that need technical expertise. After many months of capturing personal activity data and then analyzing it, I found a few interesting things. Mornings appeared to be my premium brain time where I operated better and got more done. And I also noticed that this premium brain time was being spent more on the demands of others and less on the work that I needed to get done. This got me thinking, am I using my mornings effectively? So I decided to try something out. Instead of starting the day like I would normally, jumping to everyone's rescue and responding with expert assistance to every email that came in, I would set aside a couple of hours in the morning to only work on the things I was directly responsible for, things that were important for me to progress. This meant making note of any meetings for the day ahead of time and keeping both work and personal email clients closed, only giving myself permission to check them at scheduled times throughout the day, and personal devices completely off the desk and in a drawer. When I did this, a couple of things happened. I started to become less stressed because the frequency and visibility of competing demands were reduced. My work began to see steady, measurable progress instead of being squeezed in between other demands and having to approach my work in bursts to get it done. And because it was such a small change, I was still able to provide the usual quick-to-help response to clients and colleagues in the afternoon without feeling guilty that an email was sitting there that I hadn't responded to yet. As I started to see this work, I continued this experiment and started structuring days around this protected time principle, eventually blocking the same time each morning and setting dedicated times for checking things like email. Protecting this piece of time every day to progress projects I was responsible for was probably one of the most critical things I'd ever done for my own personal productivity and well-being. Looking back, it made me realize I was neglecting myself and my own work, exclusively placing what others needed ahead of what I needed to do. It's something that we need to be really careful with. Every time you say yes to something, you're effectively saying no to something else, and that no is usually directed towards yourself. For every request that you put in front of your own work each day, you're slowly doing yourself damage, which is ultimately causing your colleagues, friends and family a disservice because you're not able to bring the full you to each situation. If we don't provide that self-care and understanding for what we need each day, we're unable to provide the care to others that they need from us. If you're not sure what time of the day to operate best, track your cognitive performance levels in a journal for a few days, giving particular attention to what you worked on and how well you focused during those time periods. Once you analyze the data and find the best place of the day where your brain operates and then put it into practice, you'll see some improvements. Invest in tools that make your work easier and teach yourself how to use them. So I just got this X-Rite color checker passport recently. Essentially, it's a bunch of Pantone chips that are in a plastic case. The purpose of it is to give you a consistent color reference point between when you shoot and color correct video footage. Now, my first video on the channel took me about an additional 2 nights of color tweaking than intended, delaying the entire channel's launch because at the last minute I noticed my face had a weird red hue once uploaded to YouTube, probably worse than it is right now, which meant I had to spend a bunch of time tweaking and uploading test clips to check my settings and get the color levels right. But if I had this color checker card back then, it would have saved me hours of time. When you're working on an activity, it can be useful to think about how much your time is worth to you on an hourly basis. And we're not talking about just your day job, we're talking about everyday life in general. Is spending a few $100s worth it if it saves you a few hours from having to edit and test footage? Probably not. But saving a few hours every week? Total no-brainer. Compounding returns, my friends. Work where your brain is. If you're like me and you have a lot of things happening in your life, when you go to sit down to do the thing you scheduled yourself to do, sometimes you can't get this other thing out of your head. When I was trying to write my assignment this week, my brain kept wanting to write this script. I used to attempt to fight this urge and say, no brain, we're working on this. We can work on the script later after we'd spent a couple of hours on this assignment. And my brain would go, okay, but how about this idea and this idea and this idea? And I'm like, okay brain, let's take 10 minutes break and we'll note down these ideas. Now, when you do this, one of 2 things usually happen. The ideas dry up and your brain stops harassing you, allowing you to get back to the task at hand. Or The ideas keep coming in and you end up going on a 2-hour tangent writing the script that you didn't intend to write. Either way, it's a win, isn't it? As long as you're not near a hard deadline, make the most of your time and your ideas by capturing and acting on them when they occur. If you've booked a time to work on a project, try to commit to that. But if you're working on something and your mind is thinking about something else, you'll end up betraying your efforts on both things if you force yourself. Observe where your brain is leading you, note down the ideas and thoughts, and continue back to what you were doing. What are your tips for leading a productive life? Let me know in the comments below. JiveLearning is a weekly show where we learn together to improve ourselves and the lives of those around us. If you found anything in this video useful, please give it a like. And for more videos like this, hit the subscribe and notification button to be alerted when new videos drop. But until then, I'm Joel, and that's your learning for today. You're welcome. And I look forward to not getting any sleep tonight. If I look messed up, it's because I'm doing this at the last minute.